Hey, Wayne and John. Pirates and your video about nature and herons, Wayne, made me think about a superstition that I heard that pirates had, or at least people who go on the sea, that they were supposed to have a cat on board. And it's really present in my mind because I'm pretty sure next to my front porch, the neighborhood cats like to do their business, and so the aroma is putting this on my mind. And to be fair, most of my information is coming from the fantasy books that I read that oftentimes happen on boats, and so I'm not exactly sure about the historicity of this claim, but to my understanding, pirates and ship people believe that they should have a cat on board, otherwise it was really bad luck for their voyage. Additionally, if you brought a woman on board, apparently that was really bad luck as well. Someone should have probably told Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley about that in the Pirates of the Caribbean. Is that too obscure of a reference? But either way, me as a modern enlightened human being, I like to laugh at superstitions and know that when you do a superstitious thing, it is not causally aligned with the outcomes that happen in your life. Superstitious thinking is, just for the weak-minded or the gullible or the primitive folks. But I know that's not necessarily true because I know lots of other people have sort of magical thinking. I know that's like a common trait for people who have OCD, that magical thinking is a thing that they deal with. Like if I don't lock the door 5 times, then something bad's gonna happen. Or if I don't wear my lucky socks, I'm not gonna make as many 3-pointers in this game. And for the most part, I like to think of myself as not being subject to these types of things. But both a little bit of reflection and the pungent odor of cat feces near me helps me remember that I also fall prey to this type of superstitious thinking. Actually, I'm gonna move. This smells really bad. Ugh. It's right by my front door, too. Ugh. But it's good that I had to move because I wanted to show you this tree right here. This is what some people would call a life tree, I think. If you're not familiar with the practice, some people do this, and apparently we did this. After a baby is born, there's another part that comes out. It's the placenta and all of the extra things. And there are some people who will, for whatever health reasons, think you're supposed to eat this thing because that'll make you healthier. And I'm not that silly, but I was silly enough to be like, well, let's hold on to it, especially since it was a home birth because the whole COVID thing. And so for our second daughter, we planted this guava tree right here and buried the afterbirth underneath it. I know, okay, is this too grotesque to talk about? Too late, because we're talking about it. But for me, this does directly connect to this idea of superstitious magical thinking. I've told you guys in the past that I like to be very, logical, science-minded, or at least I like to project that image of myself. That is until I have a tummy ache. Wow, I'm realizing that this is a very bodily fluid, feces-centric video, sorry. But when I have a really bad tummy ache and I am on the toilet, or let's say if I think it's gonna go the other way as well, all of my scientific thinking that does the logic and figuring out what was the contamination and my knowledge of bacteria reproducing and all of that, a lot of times that goes out of the window and then I get really superstitious. And because I've been a Christian for so long, it's like Christian branded superstitious. I start confessing as many sins as I can. And it's not just like the big ones, like the normal sins that are on people's checklists, but I start thinking about like the way I treat my kids and my bad attitude, or maybe the amount of doubt that I have in my life and my heart. All of these things all of a sudden become a problem when I'm on the toilet with a serious bowel problem. And I do the prayers where I ask God to forgive me of this thing that I've done, and I really shouldn't be waiting until I feel bad to ask for forgiveness. My confession time shouldn't just be contingent upon that. But this weird superstitious Christian thinking kind of surfaces in those moments, and then well, it leads to a pretty productive session of confession, even if it doesn't cure my stomach ails. But that's not the only type of superstitious thinking that kind of sneaks into my mind. There's another type of superstitious thinking that really, Wayne, connected to the thing that you said about nature being our teacher. It's almost like sometimes the universe seems rigged or like set up in a kind of way, not in like a real Truman Show kind of way or like a Matrix kind of way, but there does seem to be occurrences that seem to align too well for deeper meaning to just ignore. Now, some of it does happen in the news, like when a guy named Bernie Madoff makes off with a bunch of people's money, or like when a congressman named Anthony Weiner gets caught, exposing the thing that maybe is his namesake. Some of it seems stranger than fiction, like, okay, is this a scriptwriter putting together this thing? The names are a little bit too on the nose. But there are other things that align in a way that are maybe a little closer to home, like this life tree. like this guava tree. You'll notice that I planted a normal-sized guava tree. I mean, look at it. And I planted it in the corner where there is this concrete brim and it's up against the foundation of our house. And apparently there's a Dr. Pepper can there. And because this tree is aligned or associated with my second daughter, there are times when I wonder if the way that I treat her is a lot like the way that I have planted this guava tree. Like, in order to get to our backyard, I had to trim this guava tree pretty aggressively so that way we could get by. And I wondered, did I prune it too harshly? And then I start to beat myself up for planting the tree right here because I'm like, I should have known that this tree was going to need more room to move. But now if I uproot this tree, it's going to do more damage than just leaving it in the place that it is. And if I would have prepared a better spot for it, if it had better soil, then it would bear more fruit. It's only giving like 2 or 3 guavas every year. And because I don't pay enough attention to it, it doesn't produce really big fruit because I don't water it enough. And then my superstitious, the universe is rigged type of brain gets a hold of this thought and makes me wonder, man, do I do that to my daughter? Like, do I prune her too harshly? Am I parenting in a way that's like a limiting box that boxes her in so that her roots can't get big enough to produce the type of fruit? And maybe if I just paid more attention, or if I would have thought through things a little bit better when she was younger, then perhaps I would have been able to set up a spot where she could thrive and have plenty of room and space for those branches to be sent out. And part of the reason I planted it there is because it's on the other side of our house. There's this kumquat tree that I also planted that was a life tree for our older daughter. But this was a miniature kumquat tree, so it likes the type of constriction, and it constantly has a huge crop of fruits that it bore. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe we should just plant the other tree on the other side. If it worked for this tree, it's going to work for the other tree, right? But this tree is not the same tree. It's a full-size guava tree, so I can't treat it like I treat the miniature kumquat tree. And I don't know if this is superstition or if this is just me turning life and nature into a metaphor. Or maybe I'm like Mitch Hedberg, who talks about taking absinthe and just trying to force the trip. Maybe I'm trying to force the trip too much. Or maybe it is that like deep superstition inside of me. But Wayne, I think I'm on board with you. I think that maybe nature sometimes is trying to teach us things, like beautiful patience, like you mentioned, or thinking about the way that I treat the people in my life based off of the way that I nurture and plant them. But I don't know if it's necessarily superstitious, if there is in fact a God that made the universe, and if this God that made the universe is still involved in the universe, then maybe this guava tree is teaching me a lesson and is there not just so I can be superstitious and worry about the outcome of this tree being inextricably connected to my daughter, but maybe it's like a cautionary tale. And so, yeah, I think herons and owls and level 3 druids who have wild shape can teach us some things about life, maybe sort of in the instructive positive sense, but maybe nature can also be the corrective teacher that God uses to help us think about our lives a little bit more, to drive us to confession on the toilet, to make me think about the boundaries that I put on my daughter and the way that I enforce them and the way that I prune. And maybe even doing videos with you guys as part of that alignment. Pirates reminding me of my own superstition, and herons reminding me of the way that nature can teach us. So thanks for that, God/universe/you guys. Love you guys. See you next time.